Welcome to the Nate Gratian Show, where we talk all things personal finance, investing, and entrepreneurship. I'm Nate Gratian, your host. Thanks for joining me here today for another episode. Today we've got our weekly report of our portfolio in eToro and everything that's going on and what's happening there and kind of happening in the markets. Not going to be a long episode today, as it's been a fairly quiet week in our portfolio. Before we get started, I do want to thank all the investors and followers that have joined me on eToro. If you're wanting to start investing, it is a great platform. The link is in the description below, and you can start investing on there. And if you want to invest with me, you're more than welcome to. It's a great time to consider start investing because of how far the markets have come down this year in 2022. So the date is October 1st, and it's the end of September, which I am thankful for. September is known as a seasonally weak period, and while this September started off okay, it did not end okay. Came down quite a bit, Nasdaq dropping over 10%, and our portfolio dropped right around 10% this month. And all the major averages, the S&P 500, the Dow Jones, all coming down quite a bit. But this is not a monthly report, this is just our report for the past week. In the past week, our portfolio did decline 2.6% after a very volatile week. A lot went on this week. We kept it pretty quiet for the final week of September, the final week of Q3. Kept things pretty quiet. We didn't deposit any funds into our account this week, and we didn't make any new investments. We really with the PCE number, the price, the core consumer number coming out on Friday, and that being at the end of the week, and with where everything sat going into the week, I just kept things pretty quiet, and our focus began to turn to October as we finalized our plans for October and our plans and looking into Q4 for 2022. Can you believe we're already entering the last quarter for this year? And so that's really where we turned our attention. On the surface, things seemed pretty quiet, but we turned our attention to October and Q4. You can find my article for our plans on October and my thoughts about Q4 on eToro. That's where I post my articles and post things like that. And so that's where I put that stuff. The events that took place this week, it was, like I mentioned earlier, it was quite a volatile week. There were 2 days, one after another. The Wednesday, where that was very volatile. Wednesday, we saw increases of up over 2%, and then Thursday, it all came crashing back down. And so we saw decreases of about 2%. What caused that was on Wednesday, the Bank of England came out and said, essentially flinched and got nervous with all the rate rises and stuff, and said they're going to try and stabilize things, and they purchased some bonds and things like that. And this caused the markets to take a jump, but it was a bit of a fake, and kind of had that thought when it all was happening that this isn't going to stick around. And on Thursday, the Federal Reserve Bank for the US came out and said, we're not doing what the Bank of England said. We are sticking to our guns. We're going to continue to raise rates, and we will hold the rates there as for the time we need to make sure inflation comes down. And so with that, we ended back where we started at the beginning of Wednesday, at the end of Thursday. And so everything came back down there. The other big thing that's continuing to happen is the geopolitical tension that's continued to intensify, especially through Europe. There's explosions taking place on the gas lines from Russia to places like Germany and Western Europe, and they're looking into it, but it's causing some problems, and things are just kind of intensifying there a bit. And yeah, it's just something that we're continuing to watch, and our prayers and our thoughts continue to be with people in that situation and everyone involved in that situation. As we look forward and as we go through this year, I know it's been a rough year, I know it's been a difficult year and been tough, but as we look forward, if you have questions, if you have concerns, feel free to reach out to me, feel free to contact me. You can connect with me on Instagram at NateGration and message me there, or on eToro and connect with me there. You can also, on my website, ngration.com, that's ngration.com. It's a pretty crazy year at the moment, everything that's been happening, and it's the markets have been all over the place, but I still remain positive. I still remain upbeat about where things look long term, and that's the thing. I was looking this past week. I'll share this and then we'll finish off the episode. But I was looking this past week about the S&P had dropped 6 days in a row, and 90% of the time, after a 6-day in a drop row, 1 year later, it was positive. We'd seen gains. We'd gone further up, and then those 6 days of drops and things had really turned around 1 year later. That's 90% of the time in the history of the S&P 500, and so if you're in this for quick gains and short-term stuff, I really don't know what to tell you. The volatility of the market, that's quite risky. As I mentioned in a post this week, chances are you'll get tossed overboard if you're trying to jump around and move around too much. But if you're in it for the long term, stay strong, stay focused, and it will be okay. And just keep holding on. But thanks for joining me here today, guys. And again, if you have a question or a topic of whether it be personal finance, about investing, or about entrepreneurship that you'd like discuss on a podcast episode, send it across to me at my website, ngration.com, or just send it to me in a message on Instagram at NateGration. I hope you all have a wonderful weekend, and we'll see you in the next episode.